to come alive with us. Today we have Alyssa Kutcha Johnson, and she is one of my very best friends, but she is also the founder of FYB Jewelry and author of Follow Your Bliss. She is an inspiration to all and a true girl boss. She is doing the thing. So I am so excited to have Alyssa on today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jord. I'm so excited for our conversation. Yeah, we've known each other now for like, I don't know, 7 years. We
Yeah.
go so far back, and it's so exciting to see you growing your business and just our careers kind of thriving and growing together. So really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Oh, well, it's great to have you. So, Alyssa, if you could just give a little bit of background about your experience. I mean, you have grown your business astronomically from, your one bedroom in the East Village to now having an office front in Brooklyn, writing a book. I mean, you've done so many impressive things. So I'd love if you could just give a quick overview of that.
Sure. Yeah. So as Jordan mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of FYB Jewelry. I'm originally a born and raised Jersey girl, but had moved to New York about a decade ago, right after college. And I started the business 12 and a half years ago. It'll be our 13th anniversary in August, which is mind blowing to me. I'm like, where does the time go? But FYB stands for Follow Your Bliss, and we're a demi-fine jewelry line. So we do a lot with 18 karat gold over sterling silver, semi-precious stones. The line is meant to be affordable luxury. So pieces that you can wear every day that feel high end, but are affordable, because I think our demographic, they want to wear nice pieces, but not break the bank, right? So we do a lot of really pretty pieces you can layer with. This is actually our new year of the dragon pendant. We do rings, we do earrings, really beautiful collections. And we're actually going to be launching into fine jewelry coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Really excited to continue to evolve the line. And yeah, I started the brand while I was a student in college at the University of Delaware. The jewelry brand started as like a hobby. Like, I was a psychology major. I didn't know what I wanted to do after graduation. And I started by just designing and making jewelry for fun and doing trunk shows with my sorority sisters, and friends on campus wanted to buy pieces from me. And so I think from the very beginning, there was this big vision that I had for what I could build, and a little bit of naivety, honestly, because I think I didn't really know how much work it was going to be. But I was really fueled by the vision and the passion that I had and the excitement that it brought me, because I think I was really lacking a creative outlet. And so I joined the entrepreneurship club and got involved, and launched a website and did a bunch of different small business pitch competitions. And I think the brand started to take a life of its own. And I think a big part of how we grew in the beginning was really having that campus network of college students and friends, and everyone kind of sharing on their social and telling friends of friends. And that's really how the campus ambassador program grew. It started with a couple girls in my sorority that wanted to intern for me when I graduated. And then when they went back to campus in the fall, they were like, well, why don't I do a trunk show, even though you're not here? And that's where the idea started to take a life of its own. And then from that point on, every girl knew another friend or had a cousin or a sister at a different university. And we really grew in the early years through that amazing college network. Fast forward today, we have our showroom here in Greenpoint. We work with over 400 nationwide retail stores, including Free People. And I co-run the business with my husband, Sam. So he joined me about 5 years ago, which was a game changer, I have to say. And our amazing team here. And yeah, I think, the brand has always been about inspiring and empowering women from those early days of the College Ambassador Network, which was really about building confidence and skill set for young girls, because growing the business personally grew my skills, astronomically, from public speaking and marketing, kind of like DIY learning how to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to provide that experience for other girls to build their resume. And then today, working with all of the businesses that we work with, which are primarily women-owned businesses. A lot of the boutique stores we work with are women-owned. So that's always been the ethos of our brand, is really spreading positivity and inspiring others to believe in themselves. And that's really where the name Follow Your Bliss came from. I was wanting something strong and inspiring for other women to believe that they too could start something from nothing, because again, I started the brand with nothing. I had $100 in my bank account, and really just kind of learned as I went along. And a lot of it was just meeting the right people and working hard and being driven by a big vision for what I knew I wanted to build with the company.
I love that. And I want to touch on that some more, because I feel like so many people just, they're afraid to start. They don't know where to start. Maybe it's a lack of money or direction or, just ideation. But to your point, you really can build something super impactful from
Mhm.
basically nothing. And so that's really impressive and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the thing. I look back at old photos of like my first collections or trunk shows I did, and I honestly laugh. I'm like, what was I thinking? I mean, obviously a lot has changed in the past decade in terms of jewelry trends. Like I remember like what I started with was these like big chunky beaded bracelets and long pendant necklaces and a lot of stones. And, my first collections, I even did like arrowhead pendants and I did like wire wrapped pieces and bib necklaces because that was the trend in like 2011, right? Like chunky. And now we've like the line has evolved so much. But looking back, like you really just have to start somewhere. Like again, my first trunk show, I used what I had. I had like a vintage little scarf I used as like a tablecloth. I had a cork board with thumbtacks that I hung the necklaces on. Like, I'm like, what? Like you just have, and that night, that first trunk show that I did, I always look back at that picture. We did like, I did really, I almost sold out of everything. And that was like the first spark moment of like, there's something here. But yeah, like we've evolved so much. But I think that's my biggest tidbit of advice. You can't be afraid to start because everyone starts somewhere and no one's born an expert, right? You learn and you build confidence and you get better by doing. And so if you have an idea, you just have to put it out there. You can't be shy. And that's something that I almost wish I did more of in the early days was not being shy about talking about what I was even building. Because I think it's a very vulnerable thing when you're doing something creative. Is everyone going to like it? Is it good enough? But if you wait until if you feel like you're ready, you'll be waiting forever. You really just have to take that first step. And that applies in so many different areas of your career path. You just have to
And your
start
life.
and figure it out. you know?
Exactly. Absolutely. Well, so what has been a, book or resource that's had a profound influence on your approach to leadership?
I would say, oh gosh, there's so many books, but I would say Start with Why by Simon Sinek was a book I read really early on that really inspired me. And the main takeaway of that book is you have to be fueled by a bigger purpose. You can't start a business just to make money or have fame and success. You have to, just because you want to be an entrepreneur, like you have to really, like true success comes from passion and drive and purpose. And so I think it's really important to pursue something that you actually really care about and that excites you because starting a business is not for the faint of heart, right? It's not like it's all Instagram photos and fun times and like this whole girl boss culture of being very glamorized. The reality is it's a lot of financial stress, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of wearing many hats, a lot of burnout. I can't tell you how many up and downs I've had in the past decade, right? Almost now 13 years of growing the business. And so you have to be driven by something bigger, right? It can't just be about making money or you will fail. And so that book had a profound impact on the way I pursued things and really like thinking, what is my deeper mission with this business? Like, why am I doing this? And for me, it really came down to the community that I was building. Like, it was so rewarding to be able to mentor younger girls that maybe felt lost and they didn't know what their bliss was, right? And building that network in the early days where we were also like building friendships among the girls that were campus ambassadors and getting that one-on-one time with them. And today, the team that we have now is mainly women that we work with and young women and other women business owners. And I think like for me, like the passion really is getting to inspire and build each other up. And so that was always, again, the ethos of the brand. And that was my why. And also just wanting to do, like, I think when it comes to my personal vision, it was really wanting to have flexibility in my life. My mom is a Chinese immigrant. She worked really hard. We had nothing growing up. We had a lot of financial hardship. My dad was a high school dropout. He, was not a financial leg in the family. Like he really, my mom had to carry the weight and I knew I didn't want to struggle. Like for me, it was also like building something that, um, I could be financially stable with and like make my own hours. Cause my mom was in the medical field. And so growing up, my grandmother raised me a lot. She wasn't really able to be there for a lot of things. And I knew like in building my life, I also wanted a career that would give me flexibility. And now that I'm about to become a mom, like I'm really grateful that I do have the flexibility that I have in the business. So I think it also comes down to being driven by a big purpose and then also like what kind of life do you want to have? I think that's something that not enough people think about. They think about the end goal of, oh, I want to be I want to study fashion merchandising and be a buyer one day, or I want to go into this or that, whatever it is. But you have to really look at what does your day to day life look like, right? What is your, like, are you more of an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you like being out and talking to people? Do you prefer being behind a desk? Like, how do you produce your best work? These are all things you have to think about. And that is your why, right? Of why you're pursuing, even for you, right? Like launching your own business because the corporate world was kind of burning you out. It's like, what is your why? And then thinking about the vision that you have for not only your company or the path you're pursuing, but also for yourself. And so that book again had a profound impact on me and thinking like, what is my why? And that's really what drives me forward when times do get tough. Thinking about what I'm building and like what kind of life I want to have for my family and for my kids. Like, what am I providing for them? And a big part of it comes from all of that, from my experience in my life, wanting to have more. So that book is great.
Yeah, I'm gonna read that for sure. But I totally agree with you. I mean, I think that so often entrepreneurship is glamorized and there's not enough thought around the purpose factor and the why and the how. Or when you do have those ups and downs, like what is leveling you out and what is making you, driving you to continue this. So I think that that's super important.
Exactly. And I think it also comes down to having a very clear vision because, again, what works for one business or one person might not work for your life. And you really can't compare, because everyone has a different journey. I really believe that the older I get, I think it's just not worth comparing. We all have to experience things on our own timeline. And I do believe success comes to you when it's meant to happen. I do believe a lot of it is fated. And the biggest part is just having clarity because without clarity, you don't know what direction to take, right? So I think it's really important to figure that out and really think about what kind of life you want to have. That's the biggest thing that not enough people take the time to take a step back. What do I like, and think about like what they want their day to day to look like. I think that's the most important driving factor in clarity on like where to begin or what to pursue.
I love that. That's so helpful.
So,
So another question I have for you, and you probably have so many, but who is your favorite authentic leader and why?
oh gosh, yeah, that's another one. Oh, there's so many like badass female entrepreneurs that I really admire, but I would say Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, is one of them. And I think she's just very real. Like I follow her on social. I always love her little tidbits. I feel like she's maintained a sense of humility. Like she's very humble and she's very open about her modest beginnings. Being a self-made billionaire, she never really sold out to like invest, like never took on outside capital, like really believed in her business and grew it from scratch. And I just feel like she's very authentic. And what I loved, I saw like, I think it was a couple of years ago, she treated like 500 of her employees to a first class trip, like anywhere of their choice and $10,000. And I'm like, damn, like that is so, she's very generous too. And I'm like, I would love to be able to do that for my employees one day as our company grows, right? So seeing that generosity, that humbleness, that authenticity, like I think women like that are what inspire me to who I want to be as a leader, right? Because I think it's very easy to get caught up and to become greedy and to like lose sight of what's important. And I think ultimately good, authentic leadership comes from having a big heart and being generous and like caring about your people. I hear some stories of people that don't treat their employees well. And I don't know, just you hear all sorts of things, right? Like I have plenty of friends that like cry when they come home because their boss was rude to them. These are all moments where I'm like, wow, that's exactly how I don't want to be. And so I look to leaders that have really built a company that their employees love working there. And, I think just maintaining that sense of self, no matter how big you become, is really important to authentic leadership and maintaining a sense of transparency. But again, I love like she'll post photos from like I think like I don't know the 90s where she's on her floor like packing up orders. And I relate to that because I remember those days of being in my college apartment, literally packing up orders, like going to the post office, manually printing labels to where we are today, and I think it's really cool to see women like that who are self-made billionaires also have humble beginnings. She wasn't born into wealth. It wasn't like it was handed to her. So I think anyone who has maintained a sense of humbleness and authenticity are women leaders that inspire me the most. I think they're the most impressive. But yeah, I would love to meet her one day. So Sarah, if you're watching this, I'd love to meet you.
What is one daily habit that sets leaders up for success?
I would say doing something for yourself that helps you avoid burnout. And that's going to look different for everyone, whether it's like doing a 10-minute meditation in the morning, whether it's taking your dog for a long walk, whether it's a yoga class, whether it's just having your morning coffee ritual. I think it's important to make sure that you're baking in one thing that relaxes and like excites you. Or maybe it's looking forward to like a good show, like letting yourself like veg out on the couch and binge watch a show at the end of the day. Or it's, you know, having like a soul fulfilling conversation with a girlfriend and catching up over FaceTime with a glass of wine, whatever it is. I think it's important for everyone to always make sure that they have at least one thing each day that they look forward to that is just solely me time, right? Or it's like taking a bubble bath and like, again, closing the door and listening to like a relaxing song, like whatever it is, you have to make time for yourself, because if your cup is empty, if you're mentally stressed out, if you feel physically ill, like whatever it is, you have to like take care of that first, because you can't be an authentic, inspiring leader or a good friend or a good partner, a good daughter, whatever it is, if you're feeling drained, right? So I think the most important thing that sets you up for success is whatever that means to you, making sure you make time for yourself. So for me, it's like I wake up early. My husband tends to sleep in a little bit later than me, and I love having my like morning before Sam wakes up, before even Pearl wakes up, and I have my coffee. I sit, I make my to-do list for the day. I catch up on personal things. That to me is like my little ritual where I feel by the time I go to the office around 10 a.m., I feel like I've already gone through like my personal to-do list. And that little like hour for myself to sit with my coffee, like sometimes with a face mask on, whatever it is, like sets me up for the day to feel okay. I don't feel like I'm frantic with a million things to do and organize. So that's like personally like what helps me. But I think coming up with that one thing that you look forward to or that helps you stay mentally clear is really important. Because if you again feel frantic or drained, you're not going to show up as your best self to anything, you know?
Well, thinking about, showing up as your best self and having your cup filled and being able to, give to others, how do you approach development and growth for your team members?
I would say being really transparent with each other. We always tell our team, like, we want honest feedback. I think we check in with each other a lot, like, how are you feeling? What's your stress level today? We just implemented this new thing called Sparks, where whenever we're feeling like, okay, like there's a lack of energy, we want to make a new rule where we all get up and like take a walk, because we also like where our office is in Greenpoint, we're by the water, there's a cute park nearby. So now that the weather's getting nicer, we're like, okay, let's do like a team walk where we get a coffee, we walk, we talk it out. So I think like having those little energizing moments are really important. And I think just giving honest feedback, right? I think that's how people grow, is by like really guiding them through and, you know, celebrating every small win. Like, with our sales team, even when there's like a small order or a new account, we celebrate that, right? It's like, yay, like a lot of excitement, no matter how big or small the order is. Like we celebrate every single order that comes in. So maintaining that level of excitement, but then also giving genuine feedback on like, oh, like I think this email could be drafted better. It always comes from a place of love and a place of like wanting to help and like help build everyone's skill set. And there's plenty of things that I'm equally learning from my team. Like, for example, Sarah, who's one of our new employees, she's sitting next to me. She taught us about this thing called Snovio. It's like SNOV.io. And it's something that I had never known about. And it's this like free integration with Gmail where you can actually track open rates. So you don't need something like Salesforce or like a crazy CRM software. This enables you to kind of keep track of your prospects, but also like see open rates. And for us in sales, like it's really helpful knowing if a store opened our email and how many times they clicked the link, for example. So I think there's so many ways that you can, grow with your team and support them and help inspire them by not only like, being peers, right? It's not like I'm above anyone, like we're learning together. I might have more experience because I've been doing it for 10 years, but ultimately I'm also learning and growing. And so I think seeing eye to eye, being transparent with each other and keeping things exciting and fun, I always want our work environment to be very comforting and like inviting and stress free. And so we really try to adapt that as our company culture, as just being a fun place to work where we celebrate a lot, we work hard, and we grow together. So I think those are the most important things to me personally. Um, in building a really solid team. And of course, like the number one thing I look for when we hire new people is like, obviously, are they responsible, hardworking, but ultimately passionate? Do they care about the brand? Are they genuine fans of the brand? Like, I think those are all very important qualities when you're building your team that matter. Seeing superstars, like seeing that superstar power in someone and helping them reach their best potential by supporting them through. And it's really cool to see growth, and seeing someone start from day one and see where they are now. Like nothing makes me happier than seeing our team hit new strides and find confidence in themselves.
Yeah, you kind of touched on it. Another question I had for you is, how do you prioritize work life balance for yourself and your team members? But it sounds like, you have your rituals and your process, and then, making it a fun, inclusive, productive environment.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, work-life balance, especially for me and Sam, because obviously we're married, we run the business together, we're together 24/7. And sometimes like it's challenging. We'll come home and we'll be eating dinner and I'm still talking about business. And I think Sam has helped me kind of learn to shut it off. I think I've gotten a lot better. And I honestly think that pregnancy has helped ground me a lot because, I'm almost in a mindset now of like wanting to let go. I think it was really hard in the beginning because I am more type A and I'm very like stuck in my routine and the way I've done things for years. But just because I was doing them a certain way doesn't mean that it was the right way or the most efficient way. So that's come with time and like learning to let go. But I think like learning to balance, okay, like when we're home and we're having dinner together, we're not going to talk about work. Like we really like, even in the morning, like sometimes I'll be all caffeinated. He'll wake up and I'm like, okay, like spewing out, this is what we need to do today. And he's like, I need to have my tea first. Like, slow it down. Like, let's talk about it when we get to the office. And so he's kind of really helped create more balance where I'm not just 24/7 thinking about the business. So I think it's a mix of like knowing when to prioritize personal time and how important that is. And then also like empowering my team and knowing that they're probably going to do the job even better than I do it. Like Bella, who's our wholesale manager, she's also sitting next to me, giving her a shout out. Come say hi. This is Bella. She's amazing. So she just did her first trade show in Las Vegas without me. And it was my first time in like years, letting go. And she killed it. And she's just like, she honestly, I laugh that she's better at sales than me. I'm like, you do your thing. Like, we'll be in the booth. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do a lap and just like let her. Right. So I think like a lot of creating that balance for me has been trusting my team and like knowing they're going to do the job probably even better than me. I just have to like give them wings to fly. And so that's helped create balance, is not trying to be so tightly wound and like controlling every part of the business. I have to let go. And I feel mentally better. And it's taken me a long time to get here, but I feel like this is the first time in the business where I actually also feel like I can be a mom. I can make time to prioritize having a baby because I have an amazing team that I can trust to get things done. And that's helping me create balance where I'm not just like constantly working 24/7. Because in my 20s, I mean, you remember, like I was always like, I would stay up till 1 a.m. sometimes making a line sheet. And I've learned now, okay, like work harder and like more efficiently while I'm in the office or like when I'm in work mode. And then don't be working all night and then not getting a good night's sleep and then waking up exhausted. You have to like define those boundaries for yourself. Because when you're burnt out, you're not getting anything done or you're doing like very half-assed work. So you have to like learn how to create that for yourself and what works for you.
And I think you hit on such a, pivotal point, which is trust is everything. And you want your employees to feel like you trust them and they can trust you. And, the fact that you were able to send her to a conference without yourself, I mean, that's huge. So I think that's super important. And you covered so much. I wanted to talk about how do you develop and communicate a clear vision and strategy for your organization. But I feel like we kind of touched on that, and that's something that I feel like you're really successful with. It's just kind of getting granular, getting into the details, and having an overarching vision that supports it.
Yeah. I would say like the biggest thing for Sam and I is we want to be really transparent. Like we share with our team our numbers, where we've come. Like recently we like shared a spreadsheet that had historical numbers of like our sales year to year. We don't hide anything. We are very open and transparent because not only does it show everyone where we're at, it inspires them like look how much we've grown, but also like, you know, I don't know. I just think it shows them like the growth of the company and like where we're headed. And I think that's really inspiring to see. Like I know some people could be in the dark. Like I know some friends where like they don't even know the numbers of their company or how much they've done. Or I think it's really important to maintain that level of transparency and also like share with everyone what our goals are because they change year to year. And I think we've gotten really good with like creating achievable goals. So for example, or like one example with our sales team, I have everyone like pick 3 stores that are their top 3 stores they want to open, like new prospects. And so when we have our team meeting, it's okay, what is everyone's top 3, right? Like what top 3 accounts are you working toward? So they're kind of like tangible goals that feel aspirational, but they're also achievable. And then we have financial goals that kind of go along with that. So we all have like our financial goals, our prospect accounts, and our personal goals. So like one of our goals is book more FaceTime appointments, do more trunk shows, like get in person more. Last month it was like, okay, let's kill it at this trade show. Here's our target sales goal number. So I think having really like being very transparent with your team on where you're at, having achievable goals that are still, you don't want to take them so low lift. You want to have like high reaching goals, but then don't make them so high reaching that when they don't achieve them, they feel down about it. Right. And I've learned to do that for myself. Like I used to have, I still have my big lists, but I've chunked them off into like, okay, what are my March priorities? What are my April priorities? What partnerships am I working on? What are my goals for social? Like, what are my goals for ads? Like having different buckets and then making them achievable, I think is really important when it comes to strategy, because obviously with any company, there's a million things you want to do. There's, really high goals you want to hit, but you have to also be realistic. So I think striking that perfect balance of like, okay, this would be an amazing goal. Let's work toward it. But if we don't, that's also okay. So I think it's really like managing that balance of, being high achievers, but then also like having some that are, you can check off because it feels good to cross that store off, when you open that account. So it's really a mix.
How do you stay organized with all of these things, with all of your
I know.
priorities? I know, I'm like, I love it. No, I love that
I
you.
would say like Google Calendar is my life. Like if it's not in my calendar scheduled, it doesn't happen. So I schedule everything and I have like different, because I'm also on the associate board of Apex for Youth, which is a nonprofit that I volunteer for. So like I have my calendar color coded with like Apex things, FYB related things, personal life, like Google Calendar. Like I can't use like a planner. Like some people use like a traditional written planner. Like I need it digital. Um, and then we were using Trello for a while. I think Trello is an amazing resource. It's basically this like to-do list app, but it's kind of like Asana. It's like another like team task log thing, but I don't know. Sometimes I use it. Sometimes I kind of stray from it. I just use my notes app, which Sam, it drives him crazy. But for me, I like it because I'm like, if I have a thought bubble, I can put it on my phone and then it syncs to my computer. So I use my notes app and I have different like categories for my notes, like, okay, like ads, design, sales, wholesale related things. So I keep my to-do list there. And then we have our team meetings where we'll like have an agenda printed. We go through like, so I think it's like a mix of those things is how we stay organized as a team.
Yeah, it sounds like
But
a
I would
basic
say,
question, but I've seen it asked.
no,
And
definitely. Some people like are ride or die Asana. Like I know a lot of people that
yeah,
use Asana daily. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I think you just have to do whatever
it's
helps you be
personal
most
preference.
productive. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
And I
digital versus like writing down is definitely like more helpful for me.
Yeah. And I think just your point of like going through the month and then going through the day and then going through the week, like you have to have all of those checkpoints. And then, of course, your team meetings and the agendas and the action items that follow. But, staying the course of having all of those different times really keeps you accountable and abreast of like anything that's changing or, coming up.
Yeah. Like I'll even chunk off time on my calendar. Like for example, this week I'm working on our fall collection. So I know this week top priority is like helping like curating some new designs and getting samples made because by the 21st, I want to have samples on order. And then like every other Thursday, I have a call with my social media manager, Courtney. So like knowing that that's ongoing. Every like bi-monthly, we have calls with our ads team. And then like every Monday and every Friday, we do a team touch base with our wholesale team. So it's kind of like also chunking off what days of the week or what times of the month I know I have to focus on ads, wholesale, design, or sales. Um, or like, new launches. Like today we're launching a few new necklace styles. So like knowing I need to do like an email blast, which my social media manager designs and scheduling. So it's kind of like just chunking off, okay, what's the priority for the day, the week, the month, the year. I think it's important to get granular with that because then you feel like you can actually cross things off. You feel like you're making strides. It's not like you're just focusing on some big abstract goal. Like, how do you make it achievable and like actionable? Um, and it
Definitely.
helps combat overwhelm because it's really overwhelming
Yeah.
sometimes, but you have to make it like bite-sized chunks.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited about your new line that you just mentioned.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's
Everyone
coming.
needs to check it
But
out. Her jewelry is amazing. This is actually
oh, I love it.
FYB. Um,
Yeah.
I live in it. So,
Love it.
um, well, one other thing I wanted to touch on with you is, how do you measure the success of your leadership efforts? It sounds like you're very ingrained with your team, there's transparency. But, how do you measure that?
I think the longevity of team members, I think, is a measure of success because I think like creating an environment that people are proud to be a part of. Like I think building a business that people are proud to be associated with, work with, even partnerships. Like we have a partnership coming up with Paintbox Nails, if you've heard of them, but we're doing like a collab for May. Um, we have like a really cool partnership coming up with this influencer that I love. Her name is Ella Rose. And so we have a capsule coming for summer. So I think like the success of leadership and what we've built comes from like seeing really cool partners want to work with us, seeing amazing people apply to join the company. I think like it speaks for itself, the level of talent that we're attracting. Um, I think that alone kind of tells me, okay, I'm doing something right. If I've been in business for almost 13 years, like there's something here. And again, I'm not a perfect person. I'm still learning as I go. But ultimately, I've seen a lot of businesses come and go in the decade I've been in business. And I think it comes down to reminding myself there's something special here. Like there's something that's like bigger than me that is clearly working. And so that to me is like that success of finding the right people, the right partners, the right retail stores, that want to be a part of it and believe in FYB, that speaks for itself. Um, so that's kind of my reminder when I'm having a bad day. I'm like, okay, well, look how far we've come. Look at the partners that we have. Look at the team we have. Like, I'm doing something right, right? When I'm down on myself or I'm feeling like I'm not doing enough, it's a good reminder to anyone to look at how far you've come. I think that's why journaling or keeping notes of like what your goals were year to year and looking back. Because even for me, I look back at like old notes of like what my financial goals were. And now we're like blowing that out of the water. And I'm like, wow, like I can't believe that was my goal at one point. And now we're hitting that number each month versus for the whole year. So I think it's like having like notes for yourself to look back on are really important in those moments of like reminding yourself how far you've come and like that you're doing something special, you know?
And we talked a lot about your journey and how you've gotten to where you are, which is so impressive and amazing. But what do you want your leadership legacy to be? Like at the end of all of this, what are you
Yeah.
hoping for your legacy to be?
I hope that people always think of me as someone who has always been real and authentic and genuine. Like coming back to authenticity. I mean, I'm a Scorpio. I am very real and honest. I have a very hard time being fake or dealing with people who are fake. So I think like for me, it's like I want that to be a big legacy. It's like, oh, she's so sweet, so nice to work with. I want people to always think of me as like someone who never got greedy or full of herself. Like because I am very much the opposite of that. And I very much like working with people who are also humble and genuine. So I think like being thought of kind of like Sarah Blakely, like how I look up to her, I would love for people to also think of me that way one day as I continue to grow in the business as someone who was always authentic, kind hearted, generous, and like a pleasure to work with. Like, I think even with our customer service, even with stores we work with, I always want to make sure that, um, we're doing the best we can to be a good company and a company that they want to work with. And so I think that's my biggest legacy. I never want someone to be like, oh, she's so full of herself or that company was so toxic to work for. That would be like my biggest nightmare of my life is to ever make someone feel that way, that it was like a toxic environment or leader to work for, right? Because you do hear horror stories. And I think, like, for me, it's important to maintain that level of kind heartedness, no matter how big we grow one day. Um,
No, you will. And
so,
you have so much exciting stuff ahead, from the jewelry launch to the partnerships that you mentioned, to the employees that have, remained and the team that will, has yet to come, more coming in, I'm sure. And then your baby. So you have a lot, you have a lot going on. And I've so appreciated this and getting to talk to you.
oh,
And thank you.
thanks for having me, George. This was so fun. And yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, like looking back at my journey, there's so many things, right? When you do a podcast, like there's so much I'd want to share, but those are truly my main things. I always try to approach these with like total honesty. And I think those things have truly helped me, right? It's like being really clear, being authentic, because I think ultimately there's always also room for something else, right? There's always room for another jewelry brand or another, like whatever it is you're pursuing, there's always room for more if you do it in your own way and you show up like as your authentic self, because ultimately that's why people want to work with you, want to buy from you, want to hire you, is because they like your personality and the way that you do things. And I think people get too hyper fixated on like all the competition, because I get asked that a lot too. There's so many competitor jewelry brands, and sometimes it's easy to like compare and feel down or feel behind, but ultimately there's a reason people buy from us versus that brand, right? And there's something that we're building that's special. So I think that is another big takeaway, is to do things in your own way and find like your own version, your own spin on it, your own design or your own taste, whatever it is. And there's always room for another. And I think that's been a big thing that's driven me forward, is remembering that, we're doing things in our own way, and to not get like too caught up in comparing yourself, because it's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I look at your brand and that's exactly what I see as a unique, valuable, affordable, luxurious, soon to be brand. And I never think about your competition. I just think I love your jewelry. It lasts. I've had this for a while now. Like it doesn't tarnish, like it's quality. And, just the fact that you're a female led business, that, you've really paved the path, your book, all these things. I think that your brand really does speak for itself and is really an established and credible, but also, unique brand. So I agree with you. I wouldn't even think about the competitors because you're doing a great job.
Oh, thanks, Shord. You're the
Yeah.
best.
Well, thank you again. I loved having you on and we'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Thank you for having me. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.